Live tonight from the virtual Kansas Speedway, we say good evening, sim racing fans, and welcome to round 28 of the 2021 SimSeats Real Sim Racing Cup Series. The playoffs roll on into tonight's SimSeats 200, and we are so happy that you're spending your Monday night with us. As always, alongside of myself, Evan Pasoko, happy to be joined with Nolan Rempel in the RaceSpot TV booth. Our producer, as always, is Hugo Luis downstairs at Nolan. We are into race number 2 of the round of 8. So we continue to work closer and closer to determining a champion at Phoenix in a couple of weeks. And a big story coming into this is obviously Andrew Freenash, race winner from Texas last week. He is locked in and will fight for a 4th straight Cup Series title in a couple of weeks' time. But there's still 3 spots remaining and a very interesting intermediate race coming up tonight.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, this is one of the most, it's known as one of the most treacherous mile-and-a-halfs there is, the Kansas Speedway, and for good reason. There's not as much banking as so many of the other mile-and-a-halfs out there, not to mention the track is a heck of a lot narrower as well. That top lane so far all week long has been the place to be, anywhere past 10 laps in a run. Meaning we should be in for one heck of a race tonight, especially when people start to throw those good old slide jobs down the bottom.
And let's talk about what the points picture is coming into this evening. Of course, we mentioned Freenash, he is locked in, but look at everybody else as they stand now. Bowie, Phillip, and Sheen would be the other 3 drivers to fight for a title, but 5 points back. You got Silver dancing a little bit further down the line. He is 7 points back in 6th. A bit of a bigger jump, 14 points down is de Blasio, and of course a DNF Nolan last week for Daniel Eberhardt puts him at the bottom. A very different situation for Eberhardt, who was the first driver into the round of 8 after he won that round of 12 opener at the virtual Las Vegas Motor Speedway. I'm not going to say he's in must-win territory. A good points night tonight could put him in a good position for Martinsville, but when you start to get, close to 20 points back and he's on the cusp of that, it is not a good picture, but he's good at racetracks like this, so he's really going to need a good night tonight.
Oh, absolutely. There's about 18 points that separate himself from Liam Sheen coming on into this race, so he definitely needs a good points night indeed. But with 30-plus drivers on the grid, a good night is definitely, not out of the question. And in fact, it's also plenty of time for guys like Brandon Bowie and Agnell Phillip to have some hiccups as well. Of course, you take a look at 2nd, 3rd, and 4th, the guys that are not locked in at the moment to that crucial round of 4 in the championship round. There's only about 7 points separating them. Even one of those guys having a bad points day tonight or even being involved in a wreck, that could send them easily tumbling from 2nd place at the points all the way down to 8th with almost no chance of making that up in Martinsville.
Yeah, that's the big story, right? Martinsville is next week. Last year's fall Martinsville race had 20-plus caution flags. So we know going into Martinsville next week on November the 1st, it could get messy and it could get crazy. So that's why tonight is so important. Yes, Kansas, I think, my list, one of my favorite intermediate racetracks, is a very unique one. We might see cars up against the fence, and we'll see how that plays out. Very different driving style than a Texas. But I think it's more so Martinsville next week that it makes tonight, Nolan, so important as opposed to just tonight itself, because nobody wants to go into the paperclip close to being out because, of course, that's a racetrack that you can get into trouble with pretty quickly. Of course, this is a medium-length race, I would say. We did 250 miles last week at Texas. Tonight's SimSeats 200 is 200 miles and 134 laps here at the virtual Kansas Speedway. So a little bit of a shorter race. It is an afternoon race, though, so hot, slick conditions could be a factor as well.
Oh, absolutely. It's going to be a slick track out there tonight, but that also means it could be a fun track. We talk about how crucial that outside lane is going to be all week long. The inside lane can still work later on into a run, but you're not going to necessarily be able to run it all the way around to the corner. You're going to have to throw it down to the inside and bank off that apex and then slide up in front of the drivers behind. And how many times have we been able to see drivers kicking the back end out, trying to secure a pass, let alone putting somebody else up into the outside wall? And with a hot track, that could definitely be a very, very crucial factor. We've seen a lot of that tonight.
Just getting down to the final minute of tonight's qualifying session. 2 laps, single car runs, and on the left-hand side of your screen, you can see the drivers highlighted in red. Those are your current playoff drivers. Of course, you'll be able to recognize them on track as well. That is a white windshield banner. You're seeing on Sean Casto's 52 Chevrolet. If it's a playoff driver, you'll see red on the splitter, the windshield banner, and the spoiler on the race cars. That's how we can tell them apart. Of course, we've seen a lot of race wins amongst these playoff drivers, so does it matter if you come into this below the cut line? Silver, Danson, de Blasio, and Eberhard, a race win would put you into the playoffs regardless of your point standing. You find it interesting, Nolan, that every single driver left in these playoffs has won a race this year except for Nick Silver. Talk about being the model of consistency to this point, and curious if that team's going to find that little bit extra they've been looking for.
I couldn't agree more. I mean, Nick Silver is definitely one of those drivers to keep an eye on. He's been fast all season long. Remember, IROC Series winner in 2021, won that championship in the final race. He is definitely looking to get a race win tonight. But out of tonight, only 2 drivers could be secure at the very most coming into the paperclip.
Well, qualifying has drawn to a close, so we are getting set to go racing for the 28th of 30 races on this 2021 season. So let's go trackside and take a look at your SimSeats starting grid. It is a playoff trio 1, 2, and 3, but Agno Phillip will bring us to the green flag this afternoon alongside Liam Sheen in second. Then Daniel Eberhard, last in the points, coming into this afternoon, starts in third alongside Sam Nieto. Brandon Six is fifth, and Adam de Blasio, a crucial P6.
Andrew Freenage already secured into the championship round. He started off in 7th place with Nick Cohen going to be up in 8th place. Brandon Bowie and Anthony DeBarro going to be rounding out the top 10 with Jared Wymaster and Sean Casto in 11th and 12th on row number 6.
Madansi Major Brian Chambliss will double up for row number 7, and then playoff driver Matt Danson in 15th. He is alongside William Schmidt. Chris Rabel is 17th, and the lowest of your playoff cars is Nick Silver in 18th.
That was Cody Harris and Zachary Carr to round out what is just over the top half of the field. Ross Cato and Matthew Marr, 21st and 22nd. Stanford and Miller in 23rd and 24th.
Continuing on down through Bradley Burke and Braden Whitaker through the top 26 with McBride, Tice, Washington, and Lariah, your top 30.
That leaves the number 31 machine going to be up there in the 31st place of Shane Parrish. Sean Kalis is in 32nd. Kyle Kamer, 33rd, with Tom Moreno in 34th. Steve Soa and Dylan Jones, 35th and 36th.
In breaking news, as we see Trevin Valderrama rolling from 37th position, Agno Phillip, who qualified on pole position for this race and entered tonight third in the championship, Nolan, has disconnected from the session. He had a connection hiccup on his end. He is already in the process of rejoining this race, but he has lost his starting spot and will be at best several laps down. So because of that, Eberhard will step up from the 3rd position and to be on the outside of the front row alongside with Liam Sheen. We're happy that you're with us on RaceSpot TV as we say, let's go playoff racing at Kansas. At the end of lap number 1, Liam Sheen, the big loser, Dolan, he got loose in turn 3, lost some spots. We are 4 wide in turn number 1. De Blasio's loose as well. And I mentioned those hot, slick track conditions. It is a wild start to this race that sees Daniel Eberhard take an early race lead.
118 degrees Fahrenheit to be exact. With how hot this track surface is, definitely a lot hotter than a lot of the races have been so far this week. And what an insane start to the race. Not only did they make it 3 wide several rows deep, they tried it for 4 wide and made it work with almost nobody making contact with each other. I think that has got to be the most impressive part of that opening couple of laps.
3 wide all throughout the pack, including here inside of the top 10. Jaron Winemaster underneath the 53 car in the middle of the road there. Successfully finding a spot in line there is Nick Cohan. Winemaster going to go to the bottom, and they will use the apron as we put lap number 3 in the books. So a hot and slick summer afternoon at the Kansas Speedway, and look at the split lane already. This racetrack is progressively banked. 17 degrees on the bottom, 20 degrees on the outside. They can run both lanes, and here comes Nieto slicing to the inside and side by side for the race lead, with Daniel Eberhardt, who's going to have the run off at turn 4.
And you can see the speed differences. Eberhardt's already almost cleared by the time they cross start finish, and is going to clear by the time they get to turn number 1. The question is, does he have to chop down across? He does not. So Nieto going to stay with this one, and the PC Solutions number 2 machine pushing up towards the outside wall. But that run, we talk about the outside line having all the speed. The only thing that has kept Nieto in this fight for the time being is the fact that they are still on fresh tires. Wait another 5 laps or so, and that will not be the case. Nieto finally clears for the race lead.
Agnew Phillip is back on track. He is remarkably only 1 lap down, riding in 37th position and in a lucky dog spot as we sit. We'll monitor his situation as the battle for the race lead continues. There he is, all on his lonesome, and you can see the field about a straightaway behind him. And remember, Agnew Phillip had pole pace in this race, so I'm not expecting these leaders to catch him and pass him. He should be a lap down for a significant amount of time in this race. Big concern for him is, of course, he doesn't want other cars to start getting lapped soon, because then they would take away the lucky dog spot that he currently occupies. Side by side, second spot. Now it's Anthony DeBarros, number 50 Toyota on the outside, and Daniel Eberhardt, who was just working the top, Nolan, now on the bottom. He will try to slide in line right there. And how about Andrew Freenosh up 3 spots? He's in 4th position. Not too antsy to make a move, though. Remember, he is locked in to that Phoenix finale. He'll just hold the outside as they are 3 wide behind him, with Matt Danson in the center of it all.
Matt Danson, one of those playoff drivers that is currently out behind that cut line, needing a good result today. He's trapped in the middle between Jaron Weimaster and Brandon Bowie through turns 1 and 2. So Matt Danson, he is less than 10 points out from that cut line coming into this race. He desperately needs to get finished today, but he's going to lose out to Weimaster from the top lane, and Brandon Bowie going to hold his machine down on the bottom side. And they tried to go side by side with the race lead up again. DeBarro is looking antsy to go for a win.
And able to successfully do so as the 2 car now in line is going to try to set this pass up. Stays on the top for the moment. Your top 6 or 7 or so have been able to single file things out at the moment. Playoff cars right now running 3, 4, 5, 7, 8, 11, 13, and of course Agnew Phillip down in 37th as you go on board with Freenosh up on the outside wall. Liam Sheen is all over his bumper. They both got a great view of this battle. Eberhardt up off of the corner, gets the inside position in on Anthony DeBarro, but not able to clear him. Now what happens in 1 and 2, Nolan, in this multi-groove racing is what makes Kansas one of the best intermediates on the service and on the NASCAR calendar.
You see Nieto already trying to go defensive. I think trying to pull both lines through. Nieto is realizing that if these guys behind him remain side by side, that is going to allow him to just continue to pull away with the race lead. And Daniel Eberhardt working the bottom side, trying to get back past Anthony DeBarro. Eberhardt, of course, one of those drivers that comes into this race in desperate need of a good points finish. He came into this race and currently sits 8th place, the stone dead last driver in the playoffs at the moment. 34 points behind Andrew Freenosh is sitting, but of course Freenosh being locked in. So Eberhardt, he definitely wants to go for a win, but a 3rd place finish should be enough to put him in at least a more secure position coming into Martinsville.
Yeah, as we mentioned earlier, he is not in a must-win situation, so a good points night would help. But to be honest, and knowing Daniel Eberhardt, if there's a guy that's going to push it for the race win, it's that guy right there, and he just cleared DeBarro, so he takes the second spot back. DeBarro showing no signs of backing off anytime soon. Liam Sheen's in the mix as well. Remember, he dropped the back after a huge scare on the opening lap of this race down in turns 3 and 4. That is him right there, the number 1 JDR Graphics Ford Mustang. So he's in line. Just behind him, Winemaster and Danson are funny. Ahead of him, Farinosh has gone underneath DeBarro in a battle for third.
And you notice Anthony DeBarro starting to lose a little bit of pace in that Disney Motorsports Toyota Camry. You start to wonder potentially if maybe he burned his stuff up trying to work his way through the field and get into clean air, and it just hasn't really gone all his way. So Anthony DeBarro definitely going to be having to work hard to keep on to what spots he's got. He definitely let Eberhard go on the front straightaway a couple of laps ago to allow him to pick up second place behind Farinosh with the slider on Liam Sheen, and Sheen with the run out of the corner is going to make an effort to try to get back past the playoff driver, as Daniel Eberhard going to go to the point up in front.
New race leader for the moment. How long does it last? Oh, Eberhard really struggled to hold that race car down, and it slid up and up and up and nearly took the 2 car out of room, but he was able to find a spot in line. Credit to that 2 machine to Sam Nieto, who kept his foot in it, didn't lift, and therefore was able to take the race lead back, at least for the moment. But I mean, this is great stuff right now. Now Farinosh underneath the 50 car, side by side for third again. Andrew's almost going to get clear, but unless you're going to put a wicked slide job on somebody, you got to hold off there, and he does slide up in line. That 50 car got a little bit tail happy, opened the door, and Andrew Farinosh, not a guy that's going to push the issue, but if you give him an inch, he'll take it. And he is now up to the race high P3.
So the top 4 all single filed out before you get your first side-by-side battle up in front. And how about Andrew Farinosh looking to push Daniel Eberhard through the tri-oval, not utilizing the apron? You are, of course, allowed to go down onto the apron, and it's been a bit of a split strategy as to whether guys actually want to go down there, hasn't it, Evan? You got some guys that are opting to go down there, others who are opting to stay up on the racetrack. I wonder what tends to be contributing to that.
I mean, we've always seen drivers, try to use the apron to gain some time, but I always feel like it's been a move that causes you to burn up a little bit more on your tires. I feel like you're pushing it a little bit more, especially if we talk about the hot, slick conditions with 113 now at the track temp. Mainly because we haven't seen a ton of cloud cover since the opening laps of this race. You're just sliding the tires more, you're eating away at them more, and just not what some drivers want. So they'll take that temporary, slower line, if you will, to save the tires. I think it comes down to a judgment call, as Farinosh has been all over the place. But that's the thing I'm enjoying so far about this race, right? It's not like these cars could only really work the top and these cars could really only work the bottom. I mean, we've seen just about everybody making a move as high and low. So shows you that these race cars could kind of go wherever they want to try.
And that's what makes Kansas Speedway such a great track. When you take a look, Liam Sheen with the huge bubble through turn 2. He's side by side with Matt Danson and managed to hang on. But going back to your point, I mean, that's what makes Kansas Speedway just so great. It's that you can work the car everywhere. It's not like Texas Motor Speedway we saw 1 week ago, where they really could only work on those bottom 2 lanes. Nobody can really work up on the top side. Here at Kansas, that is definitely not a factor.
And looks like slowly but surely, drivers are starting to get a handle, able to kind of figure out where they can make these race cars go. I'm seeing a little bit less tail happiness, but I mean, even on that shot off of turn number 2, you see a couple of people walking it up the hill and just getting all kinds of out of shape. So just something important to keep in mind is these tires aren't going to wear. These drivers already 1.3 seconds slower than some of the best lap times they put in earlier. Look at DeBarro way down to the grass, very aggressive, and what a move by Sam Nieto. He is going to sneak to the outside of Daniel Eberhard. Got a nose there into the corner. Won't pay out, though, on the exit because shorter way around. Goes out for the Donnie car. He slides up, maintains that position. Here comes Farinosh now. He'll go down underneath. I mean, no driver has been able to establish any sort of control over this race.
so far it has been a very, very competitive race. Everybody's been trying to kind of work their own little lines, but apart from a couple of bump traps here and there down the backstretch and of course of the tri-oval, there's not really been anybody looking to make friends. You see San Diego not making friends with Freenage right there, kind of blocking off the 88's run along the bottom side. That allows Eberhard, though, in turn to pull out a little bit of a gap as you see DeBarro starting to close in as well. And this has all allowed Eberhard to start to build a very small gap. You can see that on the right-hand side from Freenage, how much of a gap he started to pull over San Diego.
Just listening to the throttle there, and we've seen some drivers towards the back lifting a little bit, but Andrew, full song there, trying to get it to work on the inside line. He is clear of the two. If he decides to slide up, yes, he does. Maybe the inside starting to gain an advantage in the lane wars here, top versus bottom. I mean, in fact, you look at Eberhard, you look at Nieto, you look at DeBarro, they're all single file, they're all up on the fence. Freenage is by choice working on the bottom. He feels like that is what's working right now for his 88 Ford Mustang.
It's worth noting that Freenage doesn't need to take that risk of running up close to the wall because, yes, it gives you, a better run off of the corner, but it also puts you at that much more of a risk of being put into that outside wall. You see a little bit of a bobble further down in the field as well, but you don't have to kind of worry about brushing up against the outside wall so much of your guy like Andrew Freenage because you are locked in. All he has to do is run his race and just get that thing to the end in one piece, and he's going to be smooth sailing.
That is his objective, right? And, we asked him, I mean, what are you going to do now that you're locked into Phoenix? And this gives him, I think, a pretty clear advantage in terms of practicing, Nolan. But a little bit of that got wiped away. And I don't want to ignore what's going on track 3 wide. A couple of rows worth of it. Cars in the middle of some. The 6 of Harris was in the middle of the second set. Looks like they'll drop down to 2 wide. But some of the breaking news, Nolan, on iRacing is that a brand new scan is coming to the service as you watch the battle for what is third on the right-hand side of your screen. So what we were talking about with Andrew last week is, listen, he is locked in. He can already start practicing on Phoenix. Well, he kind of loses a bit of that head start because the new scan of Phoenix, which will be used in the season finale in 3 weeks' time, that comes to the service on Thursday. So he loses out on about a week and a half of a head start that he would have had if the new track wasn't coming to the sim in time.
And some people might be really eager to kind of go out there and say, oh, the start-finish line's just being moved to a different place. Oh, look out. Big trouble. Car hits the outside wall. That was the 52 machine of Sean Castro that got up into the wall in turn 4 and managed to wrestle that thing down to the bottom side. And so lucky for Brian Chambers in the 25 that he didn't get collected in a mess.
Oh, and Bradley Burke is the one who nearly got hooked as well. I mean, Casto's still all over the place as he tucks back in line, and Joseph Tice thanking Sean Casto there for not taking anybody out and giving him some props for a nice save. Could have been a lot worse. It cost Casto some time. Let's watch the replay just a little bit, but right there, I mean, he needed that real estate, Nolan, to walk that car down the hill and catch it, and just happened to find a gap between Chambers and Burke. Could have easily taken out either of those cars. A lot of luck in that save, or a lot of skill in that save for actually physically saving the race car, but a little bit of luck as well for having the hole to make the save. He'll slide up in front of Chambliss. Chambliss going to go underneath for the crossover. You see the 26 of Zach Carp third as well. He goes underneath. Brandon 6 is the room. Oh, that's a tight slide off of 4 as Zachary Carr moves up to P12.
And this is what I was wanting to watch for when we get later on into these tire runs. That sight that we just saw is going to become more and more frequent, especially in the midfield as guys get more desperate to make up real estate on the track before that pit stop comes into play. And you wonder how pit stops are going to work out as well, because at the moment you see a lot more drivers starting to migrate up towards that top line unless they're wanting to make a pass along the bottom. And that's, of course, going to make coming into pit road very, very entertaining, I think, is the right word for it.
Oh, good stuff so far. Great way to kick off this SimSeats 200. Of course, the third to last race of the season. Hope you join us next Monday night at Martinsville for the Round of 8 finale, where we will learn all 4 of the names that will fight for the SimSeats RealSimRacing Cup Series title here in 2021. And if you're interested in getting in on the action for yourself, you can go to RealSimRacing.org for more information. Winter Series registration is opening for waitlist drivers on Wednesday. and if there are any spots left, to the public next Wednesday. That'll be in about a week and a half on November the 3rd. All that info more online at RealSimRacing.org. Looking like some drivers picking up on that Andrew Friedosh line of working down low. We saw Danson, we saw Sheen going down there, but slowly starting to see the top two cars pull away in this race. Eberhardt and Friedosh have a little bit of a gap over all this. You can see there's maybe 4 or 5 car lengths between most of these cars. Danson, Nieto, and Sheen here a little bit closer to each other than most, but those top two may be starting to pull away some 30 laps into this run.
And these are, of course, the two best off drivers, because you can see Eberhard working the clean air on the outside line throughout the track, and Friedosh working the clean air of what there is around the inside line. Everybody behind them, they're definitely contended a heck of a lot more with the dirty air that is produced by this high downforce, low horsepower package, which is allowing these top two drivers to start to break away a little bit more. But out of all of them, you can see Eberhard has definitely grown the biggest gap so far, although Friedosh has did a great job at trying to run it down. You can see it closes in a little bit by about 1/10 of a second or so through at the inside of the corners, because of course taking the shortest way around, but it's completely negated just about when you fly around with these runs you can get from the outside.
And that's the give and take, right? You got to decide, where do you want the speed? That's why so many drivers use the bottom to go short way around and then slide job, right? They pull up and basically block the car that's going to have the run off of the corner, and it's a bit of a gamble, right? I mean, you would think that with 102 laps to go in the race, that somebody will lift, right? Or they're not going to dump you. But later in the race, you start pulling some of those same slide jobs that we've seen in the opening bit of this SimSeats 200. And drivers are going to be far, far less forgiving. Taking a look at this battle, William Schmidt and Eric Stanford are currently fighting for 22nd and 23rd. Schmidt has had a bit of a slide down 7 positions from where he started this race. That's the 3rd biggest drop out of anybody in this race thus far, and is going to lose out to Stanford here. Look at Stanford. He wants a lot more. Looking 3 wide to the outside of Jones, while being on the inside of Jeremy Miller. So Eric Stanford trying to make up some spots. He's up 2 spots at a lap. And on the inside of Miller now, going to look for a 3rd.
And just behind, you see Dylan Jones, who started plumb last in this race. He has been slowly working his way up through the grid. He is now up several positions. I believe that just made it 15 right there for Dylan Jones as he completes a pass around a couple of more drivers. In fact, dropped a couple of spots on that last time. He's looking down the inside, though, of Jeremy Miller. You saw him working around the 49 of William Schmidt just 1 lap ago. So Jones is kind of up and down in this little bit of a mid-battle here, and you can definitely tell where that's coming from. It's all of those little sliders and the different momentum runs that he's trying to carry throughout some of these corners while he tries to make up time.
And we talk about how this race is a little bit longer, or shorter, I should say, than that long 250-mile Texas race, Nolan, as we run on board with Matthew Barra. He sits in 30th at the moment, has dropped off about 8 spots, I think, from the start of the race in the Gaming Technology Toyota Camry. But just, you know, smooth and consistent. Working the top side back here with the likes of Whitaker, Major, McBride. Not that far behind the battle with William Schmidt that we were just watching. There's smoke at a car on the inside of the racetrack. It is Bradley Burke. No caution. This race stays green. He made contact with the 53 car of Nick Cohan. There's a good save by the 95, Nolan, but he is going to lose a ton of time after those cars came together on the exit at turn number 2. Let's see what happened.
Push it up off of the corner. Does he put the 53 into the wall? Oh, the 53 comes off the wall and just doors the 95, and that's what sends Bradley Burke for a slide down to the inside line. Well down below the apron as well. He's going to recover from that, but of course Burke now with a lot of damage on the right front and the rear of that car, so he's going to be hampered big time aerodynamics wise. But overall, it looks like the 57 Cohen got away from that one without too much damage, though he is struggling a moment as he is going to go 3 wide deeper in the field as the battles rage on up in front.
Yeah, looking further towards the front, there is the Winemaster just ahead of the battle with Zachary Carr's number 26 and Sam Nieto's number 2 car on the bottom. That 44 behind them is Michael Lariah. He's got quite the head of steam. Lariah, the biggest mover in this race, Nolan, plus 20 positions has been doing a real good job of driving his way through the field. And I mean, look at this, in the 20s. These cars cannot get away from each other. About a dozen race cars within a second of each other. Sean Casto says that he is coming down pit road this time by. I know it's been a blink of an eye, Nolan, but we're almost already 1/3 of the way through this race. So if you're on a two-stop strategy tonight, you are not that far away from being in the window.
And you speak about drivers coming down pit road. Take a look. That was one driver pulling on down to the lane. That was Sean Casto in the 52 car. Going to be that first driver to make green flag pit stops on the day, coming on to lap number 40. So you were just talking about potential pit strategies is something these guys have to think about. Well, how about that for the first car down pit road?
So he made the call over the radio, tipped me off, and I'm surprised nobody else responded. We'll see how this plays out for Casto. Remember, he had a little bit of a scare, so he had dropped some positions, but he was still running 15th, right? It's not like this is a car that's way in the back. So we will see if it influences more drivers to come down to the pit lane. So far, as you can see on the left-hand side, nobody else joins him. The battle for the race lead, though, is heating up again. Freenosh on Eberhard. And you know, kind of a similar battle to what we saw, Nolan, over the weekend with the Cup Series race, right? In this instance, Andrew Freenosh is Kyle Larson, and Daniel Eberhardt's a Chase Elliott or so, right? I mean, you got one driver who's locked in. He is already good to go to the next round of this championship, so a win doesn't mean a ton for Freenosh, but he's probably one of the best cars in the field every week. Whereas for Eberhardt, he really needs it, but he's been challenged all throughout. DeBarro still fourth, and I mean, give credit to Brandon Bowie. Bowie also all over Freenosh there for second. So I did say our top two are pulling away. Well, that is a once upon a time fairy tale, because now the top four are separated by less than a half a second, and DeBarro had to get way out of the gas that time. He was nearly in the fence in turn 4.
And there was one car down to the grass as well. Nieto dropping down the tires. Jones gets turned as well. And that might be caution number 1. It is caution number 1. Dylan Jones stops in the middle of the track. So two different drivers finding themselves into the grass. One of those was Sam Nieto on the front straightaway. And then the other one happened to be Jones, who just got turned on the front stretch down to the apron.
And looks like Jones is going to end up being the cause for the caution. Let's see what happened. Jeremy Miller's got a run. Ooh, I don't know, Nolan. 20 put quite a block on him, but the 27 made no intentions of lifting there.
Saw that back end lift up off the ground as well. I honestly thought we were about to get a blow over there for a hot minute. That back end was actually pretty close to coming off the ground. That's the first time I've actually seen, the roof flaps actually doing a good job in iRacing. I didn't think I would ever see something like that. A wild spin, though, for that 20 car in the front straightaway.
And that is the one that brings out the caution flag. Let's see from Jeremy Miller's perspective. Let's just listen. As anticipated, no lifting on the throttle there, Nolan. And of course, you mentioned Sam Nieto also had a problem. He got into the door at Jaron Winemaster, went through the grass. There was no caution for that one. But pit lane is open for all of your race leaders. The bad news is Agno Phillip, not the lucky dog, because Sean Casto just pitted, and Casto will take a wave by. Phillip can get back to the lead lap here, but he's going to have to gate pit service to do so. Expecting the tire call. They're going to be 4 and fill it up. Let's see if everybody can execute cleanly amongst your leaders. And Freenosh is way too deep in the box, and that's going to cost him.
The good news for Andrew Freenosh, he is safe, so he doesn't have too much to worry about. Not to mention there's a lot of time to go. So Freenosh, he's going to lose a couple of seconds. Yes, on the pit road, he's going to be further down the order, but at least this is a mistake that Freenosh can just easily shrug off and worry about it another time.
In the race off of the pit lane, handily led by Daniel Eberhardt, is going to be 4 tires for everybody. Eberhardt 1, Bowie 2, DeBarro 3. Freenosh drops 2 positions to 4th. Liam Sheen will be the 5th placed car off of the pit lane. And Don Casto has been given the lucky dog, the wave around, so he is back on the lead lap. And you can see, well, there is a car up the road from Daniel Eberhardt behind the pace car. That would be Agno Phillip. Phillip is currently in a position to take a wave around to get back to the lead lap, Nolan. Of course, he would have preferred that Casto didn't take any pit service, because if he was the lucky dog, he would have already gotten waved around and he'd be pitting right now, which is what Sean Casto is able to do. Agnew Phillip, of course, can't. He's going to get waved by the pace car at the one to go. So it gets him back on the lead lap. I know that accomplishes that goal, Nolan, but everybody else is good on one of two pit stops tonight. He isn't. So Agnew Phillip's really going to need another yellow. Otherwise, he'd be forced to pit way early and would just simply lose his lap anyway. So this is a bit of a gamble, I'd say, for the 94, but clearly their expectation and their desire is to get to the lead lap first.
You talk about bad luck for Agnew Phillip. I mean, lost that connection, had that connection issue earlier on, during the day, right when they got the pole, and he's still trying to work something out with that technical difficulty, it would seem. And then on top of that, right when the caution would come out that could get you on the lead lap, you find out that one person pitted just a lap prior, and that is what's going to put you a lap down and make you stay a lap down. It is about the worst possible time for Agnew Phillip we could possibly see. I have found it interesting, though, that Phillip has actually been clutch and coasting throughout this caution period. I wonder if he's going to be attempting to make this car stretch it out as long as he could possibly go in hopes of an early caution.
See if he can get it. I don't think that if he wants to go on a one-stop strategy, he would have to go 77 laps, 67 laps. Math isn't my thing. I think 67 is the number. No, 77. I think I had it the first time. Anywhere in that range, right? I think that's a little bit too far. So he's definitely, I think, hoping for a yellow. He does take the wave around. He will cycle back to the tail end of the field, and all 37 cars who started this race are now on the lead lap and for a reset. So Eberhardt inside hits the lane that he has selected to control, and Bowie is on the outside.
And of course, now we'll be able to see that inside line definitely be a big factor. And it's understandable why Daniel Eberhardt is going to be taking that inside line, because that is, at the end of the day, the place to be in the early runs on these restarts. It's only later in the runs, about maybe 10 to 20 laps in, when you really start wanting to think about migrating up to the top line.
This one will put 47 laps behind us, and we'll get set for stage 2, if you will. Splitting this race up pretty evenly, but the one caution flag also. Neither of the drivers in that Jeremy Miller, Dylan Jones incident have claimed responsibility for the incident. No shock there, Nolan. So that one's going to go to a post-race review. Nobody is given an end of the longest line penalty. Pace car is down and in. Let's see when the Nani car wants to put the right foot down. Green flag back in the air.
Eberhardt well clear of the field. Bowie's gonna chop across Anthony DeBarro in a single file out down into turn number 1. Freenosh losing ground from the outside line, but might just want to be back in this one to set up the run. Look at Bowie, though, with the charge on Daniel Eberhardt down the inside to turn number 3. Talk about the block from Eberhardt, but it's not going to do him any good as Bowie's going to go to the point.
The new race leader, Brandon Bowie, here at the Kansas Speedway. Bowie came into tonight second in the championship, a 4-time race winner this season, looking to punch his ticket to the championship 4. But here comes the spoiler, Anthony DeBarro. Huge run at a turn number 2. He'll challenge to the outside, side by side for the race lead, with Bowie on the inside and DeBarro on the outside. And the 50 Toyota is going to have the run this time off of 4. He is going to take the lead at the stripe.
Now, Brandon Bowie is one of those drivers who luckily is in the best possible situation playoff-wise at the moment. If he finishes second place today, it's not the end of the world because he's already sitting second place in points. So he is not going to have as much to worry about in Martinsville, but so much can go wrong in Martinsville as well. Do you really want to take that risk? I can guarantee you Bowie's going to be trying to fight back as hard as he possibly can to try to take that race lead back. DeBarro already going to migrate to the top lane. Middle of the pack, Joseph Tice starting to get loose. And all around, it's 3 wide, looking for 4 almost deeper in the field.
Oh, Danson's in a tricky spot there. He gets clear, and for the 12th time today, it seems Cody Harris is in the center of 3 wide. He slides up, and he'll check in line behind Jaron Weinmaster. These restarts have been awfully crazy so far this afternoon at Kansas. Of course, Kansas, this will be the last intermediate race for the Gen 6 car in RSR history. Of course, moving to the next gens for next year, and with a couple of short to mid-sized tracks coming up to close out this 2021 season. But this kind of racing is exactly what we're expecting to see with the next gen in 2022. That's a good shot there as they came off of the back straightaway to see the speed for the outside. Brandon 6 was alongside Liam Sheen, and he cleared him by the time they got halfway down the back straightaway. Now, dancing underneath Sheen. Winemaster on the outside, 3 wide. They'll go across the start-finish. That battle for P6.
And these are 2 playoff drivers as well, and both of them are needing good points days today. Sheen pinching, dancing down all the way to the white line down on the bottom, and they're still going to hang at 3 abreast. Winemaster finally breaks through the top side. So does Cody Harris, as Liam Sheen definitely backed out from the middle line there.
And maybe this is why that Agnew Phillip was okay with taking the gamble on needing a yellow, because this is awfully dicey stuff all throughout the field. Oh, Joseph Tice almost got in to the 19 car as Stanford a little bit further on down the road. And I mean, just look at the time and it's scoring, Nolan. Left-hand side of your screen, positions changing like it's a plate track race right now.
It can barely keep up with it all. It's amazing because my own timing screen crashed in the middle of all of that as well. So goes to show just how wild this race is as Harris loses 2 from the middle line. So Dan's going to pick up another one. Sheen clears down low. And those 2 playoff drivers have been side by side for about 4 laps now. You wonder which one's going to win out in this battle as Harris continues to lose more ground from the middle. I think Liam Sheen will just barely be able to take this battle around the outside line and finally gets clear.
Took a while, but the spot is his. Here's a look at Freenosh on the inside. Slipped to 4th off of the restart. Now trying to get all the way back to the top of the mountain, but the Disney Motorsports Toyota Adebaro is not going to roll over. The Sim Racer Film Ford Mustang of Freenosh still on the inside. He gets a nose in front, but again, watch the speed off the corner. That is what he is working against. That's helping out the 50 machine, and they're deadlocked right now, side by side. I wonder if this will allow Eberhard 6 and Bowie 3rd on the back to close back in. This battle doesn't look like it's ending anytime soon.
Oh, and trouble front straightaway deeper in the field. Caution flies. 5 cars involved. Shane Parrish is in the middle of it. Jerry Miller gets into it. Cohen is there. Sean Fields, the 43 is in there. Still got guys piling in.
And I think they just ran out of room as we take a second look. And just right there, the 89 machine just ran out of room, it looks like. And Shane Parrish was 3 wide. I don't think he knew that and just kind of squeezed Bradley Burke when he did so. Bradley Burke up the hill, tagging Benazzi Major, and takes out about a half a dozen cars with some pretty significant damage. That's important to note because Agnew Phillip does get the caution flag that he needed.
So finally, luck turns in the way of Agnew Phillip. He'll be able to get back onto the lead lap and will likely be able to contend, for the race win for the first time all day long. We talked about how critical of a situation that Phillip was in earlier and how he was desperately needing for, this grouping to be able to have that early caution before another guy can be put a lap down. Finally managed to get it, though, and that is the best possible news for Agnew Phillip at the moment, who was already about half a lap behind the race leaders as it was. So this is great news for Phillip. He'll be in contention for the first time all day today.
And now the question is for the race leaders. You were all just down pit road 13 laps ago, but there has been a fall off. Do you want tires? And a couple of late changes. Freenosh says no. Brandon 6 says no. And I think it's going to end up being a 50-50 split on the decision. Interesting.
And Evan, how many times have we seen this type of 50-50 split cause some chaos on the restart? To get a little bit giddy whenever this happens, because the guys in the back are going to have a significant amount of more pace than the guys up in front that are going to be trying to charge back up through the order. These guys up front, like Andrew Freenosh, they're going to be having quite the work ahead of them trying to keep the field behind them. But if you're guys like Freenosh, the good news for you, especially if you're other playoff drivers like Liam Sheen, like Matt Danton, as you take a look at how late the other split was, you're not going to have to necessarily worry so much about having to fend off guys behind. You got everybody behind you to do all that work for you.
One of those times when I think those guys are fortunate that the iRacing sim doesn't have the orange box on the cone, historically on the pit lane entry, because a lot of those would have been very late. No real variance in the strategy on pit lane. Kyle Cameron is only in the box for 6.2 seconds, but everybody else 4 tires of fuel. They do have 4 total additional sets of tires available. So the guys up front still have 3 left. The guys behind them still have 2 left. So plenty to work for the second half of this race, but I don't think this is going to get them to the end of the race, Nolan. 75 laps. So I think this is more so, can 13 lap fresher tires make up for the positions you gave up? Anthony DeBarro is going to be the lead car on Freshies. He's back in 17th spot. That is a long way to go, but I mean, these cars have looked awfully racy, so we'll keep a half eye on DeBarro and Eberhardt, Winemaster, of course, more playoff guys at Bowie and Silver on that call to see where they end up in the midst.
And I have to agree that it's going to still be a one-stop race for pretty much everybody in the field from here. I think the thing that a lot of these guys are going to be trying to run in their heads, though, especially these guys up front that have not pitted, obviously they're going to be coming in earlier than the guys behind them have. I think they're trying to think, you'll obviously like to be able to leapfrog them with having about what would be about 40, 50 lap pressure tires for these guys up in front. But when they come in about 13 laps later for their own stop now, are you going to be able to keep them behind you?
We will see how this one plays out. All the lanes are an option, so if those cars on the Freshies want to be aggressive, this could be a heck of a restart. It'll put 60 laps behind us, still 74 laps to go in tonight's SimSeats 200. Pace car off. Freenosh wants the bottom. He goes early as the green flag is back in the air.
Brandon 6 just tucking in a line. Matt Danton cutting them a little bit of a break around the turn number 2 as Kalis leaves the pit lane. So Brandon 6 able to tuck in line for third place where he can fall too much further down the order. And Danton just clears from Ross Cato for 4th.
He gets that spot for the moment, and a clean start up front. There is Danson way low. Looks like everybody cutting low for the most part there, trying to cut the track and gain a little bit of time that they could get. Important to note, we talked about the drivers on the fresh tires. Daniel Eberhardt has taken the lead on that charge. He's up to 12th, so he's making up some time. Here's Ross Cato's perspective down the back straightaway, losing time on the back stretches. That was the 6 car, Cody Harris, with all kinds of momentum, passing him on the outside. So Cato's going to find himself 7th off of 4.
And trouble behind. DeBarro's in the wall, and Joseph Tice is in it big time. Caution applies yet again. And the number 5 car gets into this one in a huge way. And it all went wrong for DeBarro, who was attempting to get a pass done on the outside of Tice. Tice was washed up, though, and left the 50 car with no room.
It's a tough one to say there, because in a normal situation, Nolan, a car is not gonna, have the speed to get to your outside like that. So Joseph Tice is going through the corner and getting onto the throttle, expecting and anticipating that is his lane, right? But DeBarro's so much quicker than him that it's just the closing rate is so drastically different. And this is kind of what I was worried about with cars that are fresh tires, is a situation like that. And well, DeBarro may be panicking a little bit that Daniel Eberhardt was getting the upper hand on him, was trying to ring it around the outside, and you can see it there. They just ran out of room.
That's a second hard impact for DeBarro, which will almost certainly take DeBarro out of contention for sure. And there you can see Joseph Tice almost clipping out of de Blasio, and there you can see the 50 car being spun around. Winemaster also got into it big time, as you can see. So about 5-6 cars so that got damaged as a result of that, but only about 2 or 3 that actually got spun all the way around. And you talk about Kansas being a very treacherous racetrack, Evan. That is exactly why, because it is so good at being a multi-groove racetrack, but it's also so narrow as well. You're left with so little room to work with if something goes wrong like that.
So now we slow things down. Those who stayed out on the last restart, no rush to get to the pit lane, but Daniel Eberhard in only about 3 laps was able to get from 18th position up to 11th. So it seems pretty clear that there is speed in those fresh tires. The concern, I would think, Nolan, would be if we get into a race where, unlike the first bit of this race, which went 42 laps before the first yellow, if the rest of this thing is short runs and cautions, then drivers are more likely to be frequenting pit road for service. And of course, you're a set of tires short compared to everybody else. So that is the concern. But I mean, we are a long way from home still in Kansas. We're a little bit shy of it, but while we're pacing, let's take a look at our SimSeats midway race break. So your top 10 drivers, all on 20-lap old tires, and it is playoff drivers Freenosh and Sheen 1 and 2. Brandon 6 is up there in 3rd, and then Matt Danson is 4th. Zachary Carr is 5th. Cody Harris is 6th, and Ross Cato is 7th, ahead of Michael Araya in 8th. Playoff driver Adam de Blasio is 9th, and Sam Nieto rounds out the top 10.
Daniel Eberhard needing a good finish today and taking the gamble under the caution flag a couple of times ago. He is on 6-lap tires at the moment, and he's going to be looking to use this caution to mount a charge on the leaders. He sits in 11th place with Eric Stanford in 12th. Brandon Bowie and Nick Silver down in 13th and 14th with Matthew Mara in 15th. Brian Chambliss 16th with Braden Whitaker 17th. William Schmidt 18th. Kyle Kamer and Rhett McBride round out the top 20.
And continuing down through 21st position is your pole sitter, Agnel Phillip, who is creeping back into the conversation. He's ahead of Steve Soa in 22nd. Bradley Burke is 23rd. Trevor Valderrama 24th. And Nick Cohan 25th. Sean Castos 26th. Tom Moreno 27th. Shane Parrish 28th. Chris Rabel 29th. And David Washington is 30th.
And that, of course, will just leave the bottom 7 drivers on the day. You got Munati Major and Dylan Jones still out on course. Sean Kalis, he's still a lap down. You got Anthony Navarro collected in that latest caution. He is, we believe, to be out of the race. Similar stories here for Jaron Wymester, Joseph Tice, as well as Jeremy Miller to round out the rest of the field.
And look top to bottom at your SimSeats midway race break. Since 2009, SimSeats has been designing and fabricating high-quality, made-in-the-USA driving simulators, including motion systems, complete turnkey iRacing packages, and custom fabrication. Their customer base includes all racers from the amateur to the pro ranks, and everyone on the SimSeats team is a weekend racer too. Their passion for racing drives them to build better sim racing equipment. Join SimSeats for the thrill of racing at any time, in any car, and on any track by visiting sim-seats.com to learn more. Proud title sponsor of the 2021 SimSeats Real Sim Racing Cup Series. So we will try this one again. 66 down, 68 to go from the virtual Kansas Speedway. Freenosh again decides to go on the inside. He'll hold a little bit longer this time, but he still gets a good jump. Green flag is back in the air, and Sheen's going to have to fight for second. Here comes Brandon 6 up the bottom.
Keep one eye out for Daniel Eberhard further down the field. He is, of course, the first driver on fresher tires, and he's going to be trying to mount a charge on the leaders using this restart. Matt Danton being pushed around turns 1 and 2 by Cody Harris, and there you can see a look for the race and a move for the race lead. Liam Sheen down the inside line, trying to secure his ticket in. There are all sorts of checking up behind as they go side by side for the lead. Making 3 wide, deeper in the field as Freenosh hangs on.
And Cato got loose, and it stacked everybody up. And what a great job by the drivers in the mid-pack to hang on and to not wad them up in 3 and 4 to allow this race to stay green for another lap. Here comes Eberhard now. He puts a nice slide and gets ahead of Zachary Carr. He's now back inside of the top 5. Now to 4th alongside Harris. Now to 3rd alongside Danson. Fresh tires. Daniel Eberhard is all over the race leaders now. He'll look to the inside of Liam Sheen now in turn 1. Sheen protects the bottom. Eberhard goes to the outside.
And it is no contest. Look at the power. Eberhard's already cleared for him to get off of turn 2. So Andrew Freenosh now going to be under fire. Eberhard looks to the inside, and Freenosh doesn't even bother trying to defend that one.
No no hope in it, and Daniel Eberhardt, last in the points for the round of 8, takes the lead again at Kansas now, working lap number 70. What a drive this could be for the Abruzzi Ford Mustang. Daniel Eberhardt has had such a good season, a 3-time race winner. One in the round of 12 to get here, but a caution and a spin for the 2 car. Everybody will swerve to avoid, and somehow Nieto not cleaned out, but he is the yellow now at lap number 70, and it looks like he just lost it, Nolan, in turn number 2 and got into the 19 of Stanford.
And unfortunately, while he was not collected, everybody behind them was. Kamer checked up, leaving Watch with nowhere to go, and that in turn caused Shane Parrish to get quite a bit of damage out of this one, as well as Trevin Valderrama, who was going down low to try to avoid this one. So take a look back here. 3 wide, on the bottom. Nieto pushes up, and it's just going to put the SK Silverstone machine into the outside wall. And you can see William Schmidt gets into it, and there you can see Matthew Mara also having a spin further down the order.
Yeah, tough break there. Mara gets spun. He gets a little bit of damage and all of that, but the big loser is William Schmidt, who had nowhere to go, and his thing's destroyed. Looks like Mara may have had help from Soa a little bit further back in the running order. They were almost 3 wide, and I think Mara saw it coming and lifted before the 75 did. Here's a look at all the chaos on the back straightaway. Kyle Kamer also got booted. Oh, Trevin Valderrama got into him, so there was even more that happened way down on the apron there.
And all of that wasn't even because they got into San Diego. That all happened because they were trying to avoid San Diego, who was just a helpless bystander in the middle of the racetrack. So unfortunate for him. Of course, a bigger story as well that is happening in real time. Look who's all down pit road. Pretty much everybody up into the leading group. And that happened conveniently right after Daniel Eberhardt took the race lead away.
Yeah, so all the drivers who have not pitted in the last 2 yellows are in this time. So the drivers who did, Eberhardt, Silver, Bowie, Chainless, Burke, Gagano, Phillip, Cohan, they're all going to cycle up to the front. There was also 2 drivers who pitted on the last yellow. That would be Rabel and Jones. So they're kind of in the middle. And then you're right, everybody else. Freenosh, 11th position on back. Fresh tires. They had about 13 lap older tires, Nolan, than the Eberhardt contingent did. And now it's a role reversal. They will have 13 lap fresher tires than the Eberhardt contingent. Don't think that 90 cars coming to pit lane, but how about Agano Phillip? I know the strategy is playing a little bit into this, Nolan, but after dropping out, and if you're just joining us, Agano Phillip was on pole position for this race, dropped from the session on the pace lap, was able to quickly load back in, only lost 1 lap, stayed out on the first yellow for a wave around. He is now in P6.
Talk about from going 0 to hero. I mean, we kind of came into this one thinking that Phillip would be several laps down. He only ended up being 1. We thought the bad luck would continue, though, when Sean Kalis had come down just before that first caution flag came out there for trapping Phillip a lap down still, since he couldn't get, the lucky dog wave around. That, of course, went to Sean Kalis. And then Phillip, of course, had to stay out to get the lead lap back on 40 lap old tires, lost about half a lap before the next yellow flag came out. And now finds himself running in P6. I mean, it has all been turned around for that 94 car, and he can still honestly find himself with a real shot at winning this race yet tonight. And wouldn't that be a story?
It would be quite a remarkable turnaround, and listen, Agano Phillip's a guy who can get away with just a good points night. I mean, he comes into this, as the 3rd seeded driver in the championship through this round of 8. It only puts him 10 points up on a Nick Silver. Silver's currently outrunning him on the racetrack. Good news for him, though. Agano Phillip was 5 points ahead of Liam Sheen, the difference between 3rd and 4th. He is outrunning Sheen right now, but Sheen's going to be on the fresh tire. So this is a very fluid point situation. That's going to continue all the way through the 61 laps that are left to go at the stripe this time. Lights go out on the pace car. We have seen the control car choose the inside every single time until now. Eberhardt going to go up top, it appears, and give Silver the inside.
First time we've seen somebody take the top line in quite a while, just in the series in general. At Texas, everybody is always taking that bottom lane. First time we're going to be taking that top line. You got Nick Silver going to be starting on his inside now. I wonder if this has to do with anything in particular. And Cody Harris has some trouble. Stopped on the apron in 2. And I think technical difficulties for the 6 car because he locked all 4 tires up, gave damage to Michael O'Ryan in the process, and he's stuck on the apron now.
Yeah, what is happening with Harris? And he just said that his wheel disconnected and Michael O'Ryan gets damage. iRacing has extended the caution flag period. What a turn for Cody Harris, Nolan, who had is a competitive car in this race, running 13th. He's been up there towards the front of the field, and a tough break as well for Michael O'Ryan right there. Top 15 car gets really heavy front damage.
And now he's got major rear end damage as well. So here's going to be a look on exactly what happened. It's going to be coming up in just a second. Right there, whole wheel just turns dead left and locks up the brakes. O'Ryan had absolutely nothing he could do about that. And that's not even, the fault of Cody Harris. You heard it himself. His wheel had to disconnect. That's just unfortunate circumstance that happened to plague him right there.
So, just when you thought we've seen it all under green, a little bit of wackiness happens under the yellow. Can't blame this one on a full moon, though. We are mid-afternoon here in Kansas City. Just closing in on 4 o'clock p.m. in sim time. And we talked a lot about track temp early in this race. It has dropped significantly as we've gotten deeper into the afternoon from as high as about 119 track temp. It's now down to 103 degrees Fahrenheit. So it is cooling off as the race has gone on. And maybe that little bit of extra grip is going to play a factor in how the rest of this SimSeats 200 plays out. But let's try it again. This race went the opening 42 laps without a caution flag. Well, in the last 40, we've seen 4 of them. Pace cars off and in. It's Eberhardt's field to control on the outside line. Slow and steady so far. He is off and away. Green flag is back in the air.
Just like the restarts prior, Daniel Eberhardt well and truly clear by the time they get down into turn number 1, which will leave the inside line to try to follow him through. Phillip abandons Brian Chambliss from the top line. So I got Phillip is going to move up yet another position further into the top 10. How about making a move down on Bradley Burke as well? Phillip wasting no time and punched his ticket up into the top 5.
Agnew Phillip is on the move, but remember, he's equal tires with everybody else up front here. Here comes Silver now underneath the race leader. They will go side by side for the lead position. Brendan Bowie there in third as well. He'll give a bit of an arrow push there to the 3 car, and Nick Silver will rocket to the race lead. Here comes Phillip now in 4th, blocked high because Bradley Burke holds that spot. Can't go anywhere. Now it's Eberhardt back underneath the 3 car as here comes Liam Sheen, the lead car on fresh tires. He'll go 3 wide for P5.
And 4 wide just in behind them with Nick Cohen in the middle. Friedhoff's trapped in there as well. Got dancing on the bottom, and they managed to make that just 3 wide by the time they get down into turn number 1. But it's all kicking off as drivers with the fresh rubber start to make with drivers on the older rubber. You see Brandon Bowie getting squeezed up towards the outside wall by Liam Sheen. And all of this while they're still battling side by side with the race lead. Eberhard just now clears and immediately blocks the cutback from Nick Silver.
Yeah, what a slide job. Went up off the corner, took the lane away, and shut the door on the 3 of Silver. But Silver says, all right, I'll just go to the outside. He needs to get back into the gas, though. Bit of a bobble, center of 1 and 2. Loses a bit of momentum. He's got the run. He'll now go to the inside of Eberhard again. Trading blows in the battle for the race lead with 55 laps to go. He is not clear to complete the slide job, and Eberhard maintains the race lead. Now, here comes Bowie in 3rd, but the real threat will be Liam Sheen. Sheen trying to squeeze to the outside of the 34. Look at all the momentum he has got in the JDR Graphics Ford. So much faster, and Sheen's up to 3rd.
And that is because he's got 13 lap pressure tires to work with over guys like Brandon Bowie. Liam Sheen definitely utilizing all of that, but a huge bobble from the outside line sees him lose third place again and still trying to work the car out of turn 4. Almost lost another spot to Zachary Carr as well. Sheen still looking to use the outside line, though definitely seems to prefer that one. That's where he wants to put that number 1 JDR graphics for Mustang, but look at how loose he is all the way from the center of the corners. Oh!
Oh, and what a squeeze. It's Bowie to the very inside as he shut the door on Liam Sheen, and Sheen took a shot at him there. Bowie chased it down the hill to save it. It gives Nick Silver second. It's going to give Zachary Carr third, and Liam Sheen may be the biggest loser in all of that because, I mean, he was the lead car on fresh tires, Nolan. Now it is Zach Carr. So the 26 is on the move. 3 wide again in the battle for 5th. Sheen cannot clear Freenosh or Agno Phillip. So he is stuck in the middle of all of them. And Zach Carr now pressuring on the 3 of Silver for 2nd.
All the chaos that happens when you get old tires with new tires taking place in the front straightaway in the battle for the race lead, and it's a question of who's going to make the move first. That could see absolute disaster for all of these guys who are running up in this top 10 for so long throughout this race, and still with just over 50 laps to go, Phillip bobbles out of turn 2, and that allows Liam Sheen to close right up to the back bumper. Freenosh was one of the only drivers working the bottom side. Brandon Bowie is going to go down low. Sheen trying to make it once again 3 wide up the middle, but Phillip still holds that momentum from the outside.
Here comes Carr looking high behind them. Agno Phillip going to get crossed up. The Euro step by Liam Sheen going to put him underneath the 94. Not the momentum he needs to clear. Look at Freenosh, who almost split the difference, but Matt Danson refusing to lift. Here comes the 05 Chevrolet. Danson back into the conversation. Up front, Zach Carr has cleared Nick Silver, and for a moment was on the back bumper of race leader Daniel Eberhardt. Remember, Carr has 13 lap fresher tires. Fresh tires also on board. Danson in 5th, Freenosh in 6th, de Blasio and Sheen in 8th and 9th position. Carr's going to need a moment to reset, Nolan, but once he gets there, it's going to be hard for Eberhardt to make the 90 car as wide as this racetrack.
Not like he's going to need to, though. A few more laps get taken away as that caution flag flies. This time it's Stanford in the number 19 that gets collected, and it was a wild ride for Stanford down the back straightaway, up and into the air, and over the top of Munatsi Major as well for yet another yellow down the back straightaway.
What a weird and wild ride. This caution flag coming at lap number 85 in this race. Is that David Washington just getting a little bit loose off of the corner and coming down?
And you saw the wild ride that Eric Stanford took, definitely giving Benazzi Major a good view on the undercarriage of that number 19 machine. So definitely not the ride he would have wanted. Eric Stanford takes yet another hit today, and that will allow Eberhardt to hold on for that much longer. Now, we're in 50 laps to go. I think at this point, Evan, you can come in and have enough fuel to make it to the end of this race. Question is, who has enough fuel? Eberhardt making a very late call to dive back down. Danson stays out to take the lead.
Eberhardt almost sped with how late the call was, but I like this. For whatever reason, 13 has been the magic number. Daniel Eberhardt went to the race lead because he pitted on 13-lap-old tires, took the race lead. Danson pitted 13 laps later and then took to the race lead. But you're right, 47 to go, maybe inside our fuel number. This is where we would have been pitting if we were under green. You can go to the end. Is this going to be a race-winning call, or will there be more pit stops later? The call is obviously going to be for 4 tires and fuel. They go to the right sides first, left side second. Eberhardt clear for a straight shot off of the pit lane, and he will lead the race off of the pit lane for the drivers who took 4, positioning himself in 13th position. Only Brandon 6 scored higher, but 6 has no pit time showing for his box, so he missed it and will have to come back around. So 11 stay out, everybody else on in.
And among the guys that opted to stay out, Matt Danson, playoff driver, needs a good result today. He is among them. Freenosh already locked in. He is also up there. Adam de Blasio is also down below the cut line. He is in third and is staying now. Then you have Harris, Braden Whitaker, Dylan Jones, Shane Parrish, Steve Soa, Rhett McBride, Ross Cato, and Sean Kalis also stayed out. And you wonder who's all going to come in. Matt Danson opted to stay low. He will not be coming on down pit road. And interestingly enough, Brandon Six doesn't opt to make a second trip down pit road to make up for lost time in the pit stops.
And with a couple more drivers trickling down, Eberhardt will find himself in 10th. That will be the benchmark for the drivers on fresh tires. Eberhardt showing that was his third pit stop of the afternoon, which would imply, Nolan, that he's got one additional set of tires available for later in this race. That's good. And I think he won't have too much trouble going to the lead now. Best case for those guys who pitted is this race going green to the end. But, you know, Danson, Freenosh, and de Blasio, they stay out. They're going to obviously be slower on this run, but they have two additional sets of tires still left on pit road for them. So this one's really going to come down to strategy. I mean, you can see the drivers highlighted in red left-hand side of your screen. The 3 drivers up front on one strategy, the 5 other playoff drivers on a different strategy. So this pit decision going to have major implications in the championship.
Championship implications indeed. David Washington, out of all of this, did take the responsibility for that last caution. One of the only times we've seen that all race long. And it's been interesting, hasn't it? A lot of people have been opting not to take the blame for a lot of these cautions. And a lot of them could be attested to the fact that for a good majority of them today, it's a case of one person could have given a bit more, given a bit less. One person could have, taken a bit less. You wonder just how effective this race could end up being later on if people continue to opt to not blame the cautions, as Dave Washington has already done.
And Danson routed around a little bit on the apron, Nolan. We said, pit stops happened at 47 to go. Right now there is 45 to go. Danson's been out there for 18 laps. I mean, that's 63. So does he think he could make it, and that's why he's coasted on the apron?
Potentially. I mean, we've seen guys make some incredible fuel runs earlier on, but I think it's going to be a case about Danson. If you can make it to the end of the fuel run, yes, but how fast are you going to be when you get there? Is it really worth losing so much time, especially guys on fresh tires, just if you want to save that little bit of extra fuel?
Well, Danson opts to go on the inside for this restart. Freenosh is up top. Remember, your top 9 now, the number 9 drivers stay out. Everybody else down to the safety of the pit lane for service. The pace car is off and in. Danson is on the throttle. Green flag back in the air.
And Eberhardt already snakes down to the inside line. Well, on the apron, going to make it 3 abreast into turn number 1. McBride and Cato let him go through. Eberhardt does not want to, find himself being trapped deeper in the field. And there's Nick Silver down on the apron in his effort to get by McBride as well.
He was way down to the inside. Meanwhile, Andrew Freenosh is lining this one up. Big run at turn 4 to the outside of Danson. They are nose to nose in the run down to 1. Now it's an advantage to Freenosh up top of the inside. Going to be good for Danson here. Not going to clear the 88, though. That is not what he wanted to see. And Andrew Freenosh has the speed off a 2. New race leader is Andrew Freenosh, but not for long. Look at Daniel Eberhardt on the fresh tires. Blows to the race lead. He was 5th last lap. He leads now after 92.
I don't think Freenosh expected that run to come. You saw he just hung it right to the outside line. I didn't think he realized just how fast Eberhardt was actually flying up on him. So Daniel Eberhardt easily retakes the race lead now. And this could end up being big news for Daniel Eberhardt. He comes into this race 8th place in the championship. If he gets a win tonight, that's a dream situation for him going into Martinsville.
Great position for Eberhard, and he is going to run away with this one. Good on fuel, but Nick Silver, same pit stop strategy as him, has been able to get around Freenosh. So Eberhard may run away from the old tire cars, but he's not going to run away with the guys on equal tires. Phillip is also on the same strategy. Agnil Phillip is now up to third. Brandon Bowie going to be the next driver to join them. Bowie's going to go underneath Freenosh. Fresh rubber now, sitting 1, 2, 3, and 4. Speaking of 4, how about some 4 wide there in the battle for position number 6? How on earth did they make that one work?
It's not the first time they made it work so far today. And all the mile and a half where 4 wide can honestly be a bit of a common sight. The Kansas Speedway obviously has to be the one that comes to mind, and just like that, 4 wide goes into 2 within no time. Sean Casto is out trying to look up the inside line to further up the field. Sheen to make a run on Andrew Freenosh. Finish course already secure, and he is going to continue to drop down through the order on those older tires. Daniel Eberhard as well under fire for the race lead. Nick Silver's trying to get past, as is Agnel Phillip, and Brandon Bowie trying to close in from 4th.
And Silver had the littlest of bobbles there where he had to give it a bit of counter steer on the outside line of 1 and 2, and it cost him some time. So he's going to have to hit the reset button and try again. He wallows in the track lines of the Nandi car on the bottom, but Agnel Phillip opted to go high. So Phillip's got the run down the front straightaway, looking to the outside of the 3. Faking low, looking high again. Eberhard low, Silver low, Phillip high. Is this the exit that the 94 needs? He's got momentum, but not close enough.
Not close enough yet, but all it's going to take is one error from Andrew for Daniel Eberhard, and that will get Nick Silver right into the fold. You saw Nick Silver definitely having a bit of extra speed on the entry as Eberhard dives down low, and there's the crossover. Nick Silver to the inside of Daniel Eberhard across start finish with 39 to go, and Nick Silver, the 2021 IROC champion, is going to go to the point.
And how about the drive for Silver? But now Eberhard looks to cross, and he is going to push the 3 car deep into the corner. He tries to upset the balance on that Ford, and now he'll try to set him up for the runoff. Both Eberhard and Phillip, same idea, trying to get the run, but they're not going to be able to do so. Nick Silver to the lead, and leads at least this lap after starting at 18th position. You are not able, though, to pull away with this package, and at this racetrack, clean air does not mean that you're untouchable. If anything, it's a bit of a disadvantage. Eberhard again drafts up, goes to the outside line. 3 cars, 4 cars in the mix as well if you count Bowie. Liam Sheen, Nolan's up to 5th now, and those 5 playoff guys that I mentioned were on the opposite strategy of Freenosh, de Blasio, and Danson are now running 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Again, Eberhard looks high,
but backs out before they get down to turn 1 as Nick Silver looked to close him up, and I think he realized, Eberhard, that he was not going to be able to realistically make that pass work, so he backs out and opts instead to kind of reset and think again instead of losing more time to Agnel Phillip. Look at both of those top 2 drivers running the bottom side. Phil, the only driver looking to run right up by the wall, the Larson line, and here comes the run for Daniel Eberhard. This time going to go to the inside line. Silver was not expecting it, and Eberhard going to try to go back to the race lead in turn 1, and he clears before they get to 2, and Eberhard's going to wash up as Silver checks up Phillip.
And now it's a drag race for second. Agnel Phillip wants to put your previous race leader back into the number 3 position. He's done it for a moment, but he doesn't have the momentum. Silver, great defense up top, and he will hang on to at least position number 2. Phillip using the apron, that time by 34 laps to go from the virtual Kansas Speedway. Daniel Eberhard looking to punch his ticket to the championship 4. In fact, that's what every single one of the top 5 cars are trying to do, but Liam Sheen is under fire behind. He's got Chambliss, he's got Casto all over him, and now in a battle for 3rd, who is going to try to get underneath Agnel Phillip. So much going on in a top 8 breakaway.
And Bowie was not able to get clear of Phillip by the time they got off at turn number 4, pushing Phillip up. through turn 1, and you see Liam Sheen also trying to work to keep Chambliss and Carr at bay just in behind, and all this side-by-side battling for P, and number 3 is allowing the top 2 to start to build a small gap. Phillip trying to clear before 3, but just doesn't have enough of a momentum trying to be able to make that one work. So Bowie will continue to work the bottom side and pushes up again out of turn 4, but I don't think he's going to be able to hold on much longer. I believe Phillip might be able to get this one secure out of 2.
All over him. Let's see what happens. Agnew Phillips going to have the momentum. But the 34 was really good there. Agnew Phillips did not get the corner that he wanted. The speed on the outside is going to be enough to keep him even, but hardly enough to get him all the way clear. Bowie still has the nose underneath into the corner. Liam Sheen hedging his bets that the outside's going to be the place to be. He's up top, so is Zach Carr. Chambliss further behind, trying to work on the inside line. Eberhardt for the moment able to lead some laps now that these tires have got 17 laps on them. It'll be a little bit more tricky for all of these crisscross moves. So Eberhardt may have gotten that top position back at the right time. And what a drive down low that allows Brandon Bowie to successfully defend P3.
So Phil's gonna have to try to top, and how about the run from Bowie trying to the outside line this time by, and he's gonna be able to pull alongside Nick Silver. Bowie trying to go for P2 here, going from defense right to offense, and Silver forced to back off. Bowie takes P2 down to the turn number 1, and now he's got Daniel Eberhardt in his sights.
Can he make the difference? Eberhardt sported about a 4/10 of a second advantage right now. You can see a little bit of a breakaway. If these drivers can try to give him some grief for second, Eberhardt might be able to hold. But Bowie was 9/100ths, or just short of 1/10 of a second faster than Eberhardt down the back straightaway. That is how much time is made up simply by drafting. On the exit of 4, he was 0.32 seconds back. By the time they get to 1, the gap was down to 0.24 seconds. So you're given so much draft to the cars behind you as a race leader, Nolan, and those guys were able to avoid that dreaded dirty air that was the story at Texas and that you always hear drivers talk about in the Cup cars because, well, look, Eberhardt's down low, but that's not where Bowie is. He's up top, so is Agnew Phillips. They're able to get out of the dirty air in the corner, but tuck in line on the straightaways, and that's how they're able to close.
And now catch up the lap traffic. They're going to get past the 82 machine of Minazzi Major. Every one of these drivers is going to look to go around the outside line through 1 and 2, and looks as though Trevor Valderrama will just move down to the apron and allow this battle for the lead through down on the apron before they can even get around 2, 3, and 4. You're right on board with Nick Silver currently sitting P4, trying to close up now to Agnew Phillips, who's running in a great 3rd place at the moment. And what a recovery drive from Agnew Phillips. We talked about it before, going down a lap before the race even started, staying a lap down in the first caution, and managing to somehow wrestle it back. And again, still in contention for a race win at Kansas.
And we talk about Phillip, how impressive this night has been, Nolan. Just the fact that he's here in 3rd is extremely impressive. But, you know, man, would it be quite the storyline if he could close this one out. From the back to the front is what he's hoping for. But we're starting to see the runs come a little bit slower. These cars are spreading a little bit, about halfway through this run to get to the end of the race. Blasio in 12th, Freenosh in 13th. Have slid. They are some 6 seconds off of the race leaders after not having to pit. This is what they are currently dealing with in the center of turns number 1 and 2. Lapped car down low. I believe that's Minazzi Major's 82 car off of the pace. But again, it's a tricky spot, Nolan, because these guys have tires, right? So their thing is, well, if we get a yellow, we have tires. But honestly, so do the guys up front. And at this point, if you get a yellow, I think everyone's pitting and you're not gaining anything. So this race is not done yet, but clearly the better call was the drivers who topped off on fuel and tires the last run.
And of course, you talk about how these guys in the back might need that, you know, extra caution to be able to get themselves back on a fresh set of tires. But that's another big question. Do we get another caution? Because this is the most spread out the field has been all race long. And so far, we have not really been close to being able to get into a situation where we could get another caution flag. So that goes to show just how big of a race this has been so far and how eventful it was. particularly around that middle portion between laps around 60 and 90 with all the yellows we had. All the cars that have damage now are in their own little groups, and it is allowing for these guys to be able to battle cleanly up and down in the orders.
Painless has been the, I don't want to say a late addition to this because, I mean, heck, he started this race 14th and carded 20th, but we didn't talk a ton about Brian Chambers first half of the race, but there he is, the Car Racing Designs Chevrolet in the mix, about 1.6 seconds off of the race leader. He's ahead of Sean Casto, who, and Nick Cohan is down and in the grass on his own. He will get it righted, no yellow. He got put into the fence, I think. Let's watch this battle. That's Lariah ahead of him. Lariah goes low to take the bottom. And as they come through 3 and 4, Lariah's going to try to pull a slide job. He pulls up. I mean, it didn't put him in the wall, Nolan, but he really didn't give him any room to work with there.
How about Bradley Burke just barely getting around all of that mess? A big check for the 95 sees him lose a spot, but I'm pretty sure he'll take that over what could have been, but it didn't leave a lot of room to work with him. That's almost a carbon copy of what happened earlier on in the race, except in that incident, Evan, right in the midfield on a restart, caused about a 6-car pile-up instead. We were lucky to only get away with one driver being sideways on the grass that time.
Very fortunate. We've had a couple of drivers take the trip through the front stretch grass here at Kansas, which is huge. I mean, you know, some tracks have a little bit of grass, but I mean, there is a lot of bank and a lot of curve, I think maybe the right word, to this tri-oval here. So that is deep grass. Most tracks, if you get that deep into the grass, you're probably on pit road and looking at a speeding penalty. Here at Kansas, there's a lot of grass down there, so a lot of more space to catch and recover a race car. And I believe the night may be done for Cohan. It's something come down to the pit lane, so we'll see if he opts to get back out there. But tough break there nonetheless after he ended up off and into the grass. Inside now of 20 laps to go in this race. Daniel Eberhardt starting to get comfortable. 5 car lengths ahead of Brandon Bowie, ahead of Phillip, Silver, and Sheen. All 5 playoff drivers. They did 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5 tonight, and big nights for Bowie, Phillip, Sheen, of course, those old drivers who were above the cut line coming into this race. Nick Silver was the bubble driver, and the fact that he is 1 single point ahead of or 1 position ahead of Liam Sheen is good, Nolan, but he was 5 behind him coming into tonight, so it is only going to choke things up at the top of the championship. And then, of course, with Daniel Eberhardt having been last in the points coming into this, leading as we run, that would push everybody down, right? Sheen would go from 4th to 5th, and it would leave us with only 2 points-paying positions headed into Martinsville if the 90 can close this out here tonight.
And I think one of the drivers at the moment that is definitely at the biggest threat is, in fact, Matt Danson, who is further down the order. You've got 5 out of the 8 playoff drivers running up here in the top 5. Danson is not among them. He is not even in the top 10, so it could actually be a pretty big points gap between guys like Danson and de Blasio up to the rest of the guys that they're actually contending with.
Yeah, he's in the mix. I mean, you know, that's the storyline, is you just want to be in this. You want to fight against all of these drivers. And, you know, I know that, Nolan, the intermediate package, generally speaking, you know, is not everybody's favorite. And listen, maybe the drivers still aren't having fun, but I mean, this has objectively been a very, very entertaining race from our end. And look at the 34. I mean, even with high downforce, sliding that thing off on exit, he is going to do everything he can to make sure this is not a stroll for Eberhardt. All 5 of these lead cars have the same objective. You win the race, you are fighting for a championship.
When you say, you know, even with the high downforce, oh, heads up, de Blasio spins. There's the caution the second group needed. That was the caution they were all waiting for. It was the caution that the top 5 were dreading. And with 16 to go, I honestly think all of a sudden a green-white checkered, Evan, isn't out of the question anymore.
This changes everything as de Blasio and Danson get together on lap number 118 of this race. And let's take a look. It looked like de Blasio was a little bit loose, Nolan. Looked like that Danson came up a little bit. And they get together. De Blasio spins around. Here's the high above perspective. I mean, looks like a bit of both, Nolan. What do you think?
I mean, it's a bit of an interesting one, isn't it? Because while, yes, Matt Danson came up and kind of tagged out of de Blasio, you look at de Blasio, and he is sideways with a bit of smoke flying from that right rear tire by the time Connor's made. But look at that right there. That's smoke out of the tires from de Blasio by the time Danson hits him. So it's very hard to really pin anyone on that. I'd say, honestly, it's a 50-50. I mean, Danson probably wouldn't have hit him with the run de Blasio could have gotten out of the corner. But it's impossible to say because the only reason why I'm giving Danson the benefit of the doubt is because de Blasio was already in the process of wrecking by the time that they actually made contact.
And here we go, pit stops. That second group, you talked about them, they needed this yellow, but they are not going to get a fresh tire advantage because everybody is in this time. And for the leaders, it's going to be the last set of tires they have left. This is the biggest pit stop of the season. And Daniel Eberhardt, first car in, is into the box cleanly. Again, you see the right side jacked up first. Agnew Phillip is that first car in line. Sheen a little bit crooked in the box. Left side will go up. Here's the race off of the pit lane. A challenge on the outside, but Daniel Eberhardt wins the race off of pit lane. And he will secure the lead position for the restart, Nolan. But I don't know if that matters, to be honest. Things had just started to calm down. This is going to be the wildest restart of the season.
Of the season so far. There is still Martinsville. There is still Martinsville just 1 week from now, which could easily kick everything else back into high gear. But I know what you mean. I mean, this would be an absolutely insane finish to this race. I mean, it'll likely be close to, if not 10 laps to go when we take this green flag, and everybody's going to be on fresh rubber, and nobody is going to be willing to give an inch.
Adam de Blasio claiming responsibility for the incident in turn number 4. He will receive an end of the longest line penalty. Doesn't hurt him all that much because he was basically at the end of the lead lap anyways in 27th position. That's a big strategy there, Nolan. I mean, Adam de Blasio, a playoff driver, involved in that contact and was 7th in the points coming into this race. Of course, recently, the rules were modified. Drivers may have been less inclined to claim a caution flag, right? To just take the penalty points and, just kind of deal with that. But recently, drivers voted to enact a 5-point penalty in championship points if you are assigned the blame of an incident that you do not claim. And Adam de Blasio feels like that he would rather fight for these spots late in the race than to take the penalty points plus a 5-point penalty, plus a 5-point penalty. There's a difference. Penalty points are what determine suspensions. Point penalties are in the championship. So Adam de Blasio has decided to claim the yellow. He gets it into the longest line penalty. He instantly becomes by far the worst running playoff car by going to the back.
I think, though, that it might be a wise move from Adam de Blasio because at the moment he's looking set to be a little bit further down, and I'm going to call it right now. He is going to be making up several spots in these final laps by getting through slower traffic just up in front of him, especially now that he is on fresh rubber and he can race as aggressively as he would want. And personally, I would not want a 5-point penalty hanging over my head coming into Martinsville if I'm not going to be safe. I'll take the 1 point and the OL any day of the week. He still has time to make up lost ground.
And the lights are out on top of the base car. Daniel Eberhardt has chosen the outside. Of course, it's going to be critical for him to get a good jump, but to be honest, it doesn't matter. If he gets 10 car lengths ahead or if he gets 1 car length ahead, there is a 0% chance that Daniel Eberhardt leads every single lap to the end of the race. Every car up here is going to have an opportunity to win it. Let's highlight the playoff drivers. Again, left-hand side of your screen, they are highlighted in red. Daniel Eberhardt first, Brandon Bowie second, Nick Silver third, Agnew Phillip fourth, and Liam Sheen in fifth. Now, new life for Andrew Freenosh in 10th, Matt Danson in 11th, and Adam de Blasio with the end of the longest line of penalty is 27th. Pace car going to be in this time. Eberhardt again choosing the outside. That's the lane that he has preferred when he has been in control. We will have 11 laps to go. in the Sim Seats 200. Pace car off and away, waiting on the 90 car. Still holding, right foot down. Green flag, back in the air. 11 laps to go at Kansas.
And already Phillip looking for the inside of Brandon Bowie into turn number 1. Doesn't end up going forward. Phillip forced to back out as Bowie covers him off. But Brandon Bowie bump traps Daniel Eberhardt out of turn 2 and trying to do the same down the back straightaway. Phillip looks high, trying to make the time for second around the outside line through 3 and 4.
He's the first one to go high. Bowie slides up mid-corner, too late. Agno Phillip is on the outside for second position. You're on board there with the number 3 car. Nick Silver looking for a way through. He does not force the 3 wide. He stays middle of the road. Here comes Bowie. An aggressive drive. He'll get underneath the 90 of Eberhardt. They touch. Coming out of turn 2. Phillip gets into him as well. Agno Phillip will push Daniel Eberhardt into turns 3 and 4. Bowie on the inside, Eberhardt on the outside for the race lead. The 90 stays in control with 9 laps to go.
Under 10 remaining. If we do get another caution, we would still be able to finish the race under regulation time, but only just. Bowie stepping it out for the bottom side. So Phillip going clear for second place. There is just one more driver now that is standing between Agno Phillip and a storybook win at Kansas Speedway. Eberhardt's up high, and Phillip is going to try to take advantage of the low side with the fresh rubber.
3 wide behind them. Sheen, Silver, Bowie all fighting for position for positions 3 on back, but that bobble by Bowie may end up costing him the race. They are still 3 wide for third. Sheen shaking a little bit in the middle. Bowie is going to clear on the bottom, at least whittle this down to 2 wide, but the speed's on the outside. Nick Silver takes over third. Zach Carr wants to play spoiler. He is there in position number 4 as well, looking for 7 laps to go. Eberhardt's got an advantage, but Agno Phillip is drafted up on him. Look at Carr all over the 34 as he pinched Bowie down to the grass. Now Bowie's got a nose in front in the center. He'll pull the slide job off of 2.
Does Carr trying to cut back into turn 3? He does not. Zachary Carr going to follow in line with Brandon Bowie. I think trying to use Bowie to help close him up to the rest of the guys looking to battle up in front for the race lead and for a race win as we go 6 laps remaining. And Eberhardt continues to lead from Phillip, from Silver. And at the moment, Phillip is having to worry more about Nick Silver from behind than he can about closing up to Eberhardt up in front.
Very impressed with what Daniel Eberhardt's been able to do. He had one look at him, but a pretty impressive run for the 90 car thus far. Can he stretch it just a little bit further? Phillip decides to stay to the inside, and he'll trace the tire tracks of the 90 Ford, whereas Nick Silver went to the outside. He is trying to build up some speed, build up some momentum. 5 laps to go. He's on the bumper of Phillip, but Phillip is closed in to within a car length of Daniel Eberhardt. Carr's there in 4th. On the outside, here comes Brandon Bowie in 5th. Bowie's got nowhere to go, blocked in by the 3 car. He'll push him down to 3. Now to the inside comes Brandon Bowie.
If I'm one of these drivers, I'm wanting to push Agno Phillip up to Daniel Eberhardt and help him try to initiate that pass for the race lead. If Phillip can't get alongside, it is going to be all over the battle for the lead. How about Carr with the block? On current points leader, Andrew Freenosh into turn 1. She tries to go for the inside, but that attempt doesn't go anywhere as once again, Carr all over the place on defense.
A lot of side-by-side battle. You remember, everybody on even tires. Danson's been able to get up to 10th. Freenosh up to 5th. They're the biggest winners thus far on the caution. Sheen is into the outside wall. Liam Sheen just got a little bit of it. 3 wide. Chambliss in the middle. Danson on the inside. That battle is for position number 8. But it's allowing the race leaders to run away with 3 laps to go. Eberhardt leads, and it's Agno Phillip on the outside. Bowie in 3rd as they start to spread out.
And Sheen braced clear of 3 wide around Brian Chambers. Sean Castle loses the spot to Zachary Carr. Everybody except Agno Phillip and, of course, Matt Danson in this grouping are running on the bottom side. So there's so little time to work with here at the moment, with now 2 laps remaining. And with a quarter of a second between Agno Phillip and Daniel Eberhardt, I have a feeling Eberhardt might have this race in the bag.
They just haven't been able to get to him. Daniel Eberhardt has turned up the wick on this late race, 11 lap to go restart. You can see Freenosh looking to the inside of Nick Silver there. He does not do anything with it. Stays in line. And now they all ride the outside. 2 car length is going to be the difference. White flag at Kansas.
Final time around. Phillip's got 1 lap to get this sorted. Does he look high? He does look high. Agno Phillip trying to cheat the pass in 1 and 2 with 1 to go. Not going to go anywhere. He's got to give it everything in 3.
He's got the run down the back straightaway. Agno Phillip looks low. Eberhardt blocks. He's there. Side by side. 3 and 4. Final lap. Agno Phillip can't get back into the gas. And Daniel Eberhardt wins at Kansas and will fight for the SimSeats RealSimRacing Cup Series Championship in 2021 after finishing dead last week at Texas and entering tonight last in the playoff standings for the round of 8, needing a win, Nolan, and it is exactly what he did. What a drive for Daniel Eberhardt.
What an absolute barnstormer of a finish. By far one of, if not the most exciting finish we have seen on the season thus far. No matter which way you look at it, it's a storybook win for one of these drivers. For one of them, it ended up being a lap down all the way up in front. For another, it's a secure spot going into Martinsville after being last place in the points coming into today's race. And Eberhardt's going to burn it down on the front straightaway.
Big nights for a lot of drivers. Agno Phillip is in a good position. So is Brandon Bowie. Nick Silver stays in the conversation. Sheen loses some ground, but it is no bigger night than for this man. Daniel Eberhardt gets race win number 4 of 2021, and he will have another chance to dispel the talk that he has dealt with for so many years that Andrew Freenosh has dominated this SimSeats RealSimRacing Cup Series. He gets another crack at a title here in 2021. Let's take a look at your SimSeats full race results. Playoff cars in the top 5. Daniel Eberhardt wins and advances. Agno Phillip is second. Brandon Bowie third. We'll talk with all of them in a moment. Ahead of Nick Silver fourth and Andrew Freenosh at fifth. Car Chavis Castro through the top 8 with playoff drivers Matt Danson 9th and Liam Sheen in 10th.
And that leaves Michael Araya in P11, Rhett McBride down in 12th with Adam de Blasio 13th, Chris Rabel 14th, Ross Cato in 15th. Braden Whitaker finishes now in 16th place with Brandon 6 in 17th, Steve Soa in 18th with William Schmidt and Bradley Burke down in 19th and 20th.
Continuing on down through Dylan Jones 21st ahead of Matthew Mara, Cody Harris, David Washington, and Shane Parrish. Of course, you got a lot of drivers who are able to limp home in this. Tom Morano, 26th. Sean Kalis, 27th. Trevin Valderrama, 28th. All sticking this one out. Ahead of Benazzi Major, 29th, is the first driver to finish on, or the last driver, I should say, to finish on the lead lap. First driver off the lead lap is a DNF for Nick Cohen in 30th.
And of course, these other drivers not making it to the end of this race. Started it off with Eric Stanford in 31st place. Then comes Kyle Kamer, San Vieto, Anthony DeBarro with Jared Wymaster in 35th. Joseph Tice and Jeremy Miller rounding out the 37-car grid.
That is a look top to bottom at your SimSeats of full race results. Since 2009, SimSeats has been designing and fabricating high-quality, made-in-the-USA driving simulators, including motion systems, complete turnkey iRacing packages, and custom fabrication. Their customer base includes all racers from the amateur to the pro ranks, and everyone on the SimSeats team is a weekend racer too. Their passion for racing drives them to build a better sim racing equipment. Join SimSeats for the thrill of racing at any time, in any car, and on any track by visiting sim-seats.com to learn more information. So, to SimSeat's victory lane we go. Stood by with the driver of the number 90 machine, Daniel Eberhardt, your race winner in tonight's SimSeats 200. Daniel, you will fight once again for an RSR Cup Series championship. Congratulations.
Thank you, Evan. Man, I don't know what it is about Kansas, but I love it. I love Kansas. I love running against the wall. It's a fun racetrack. I wish more tracks had that multiple groove. I mean, you ran the bottom. Like, Bowie was ripping on the bottom all night. I don't know how he was so quick down there, but he was flying. And but there was a bunch of comers and goers, and luckily we were on the good side of the tires at the end of that race right there. A couple of them stayed out. So I mean, it's I just want to win it, man. I'm right there at the Final Four for the last couple of years, and I want to win it, and this is my chance. I feel like I have the best chance of anything to go and win this thing.
Of course, it's been quite the few weeks for you after winning, the round of 12 opener at Las Vegas, locked yourself in, right, all comfortable, and then you had to sit out for a couple of weeks, and then you get back at Texas, not at 100%, and you're caught in a wreck early. So you go from being on top to being at the bottom. To come into this race and to deal with, 4 other playoff guys who were looking for exactly what you were looking for, the golden ticket, right? Agnell, Brandon, Nick, all those guys, if they had won it, they would have been in. So they weren't holding anything back on you. Just tell us about that challenge to get back into this and to get yourself back to the top of the mountain.
Yeah, I didn't want to miss the races that I missed. I think it was Charlotte and Talladega. I had COVID, so I hated missing it, but I needed to do it. I needed to do it to get healthy again. And Texas, I lost my cool with I want to say it was Matt Mara, and I felt really bad about it. But I think you're sick, so you're agitated, and then you go and wreck out of that, and then I go and look at the points, and I'm like, oh no, I'm way down. So I knew it's kind of a must-win. Maybe not, leading the most laps and everything, but I'm really not sure, just with the whole format and everything. You don't know, because you have people like Agnell who can win. He's fast. You got Bowie who's fast. You had Nick Silver tonight who is fast. There's a lot of guys tonight that were just quick and could run up front. Andrew was fast. So if Andrew wins, he keeps, another round goes by, or another race goes by, and he keeps somebody from winning. So that means there's 3 more positions open. But luckily, we have the top 2 locked up. So we're gonna go into Phoenix, and they're switching the whole track to what Phoenix is today, with the start-finish line coming out of turn 2, or well, it'd be turn 4 now. But I just don't know. I feel like restarts are gonna be hectic at Phoenix. You're gonna have that whole apron to go down through the dog leg. So it's going to be crazy. This SK Sim Racing Ford was fast all night, and it just feels great to be back in victory lane.
I know that, Phoenix is a track that you would typically feel very confident going into, right? You qualified on a pole there earlier this year. You got a top 5 finish. With the repave, or the new skin, or whatever we're going to call it, is your primary concern, all right, well, the track's getting flipped around, so now that dog leg, as you mentioned, is going to be an effect on restarts? Or are you worried that, the track surface is going to be different, and there'll be a bit of a short learning process where, you really only have about a week and a half to figure it out, and really not a lot of, intel and experience to look back on?
Yeah, what worries me the most, Evan, is the restarts coming through the corner. That, to me, that's going to make it to where a car will jump sideways, because you got 750 horsepower there, unlike 550. So it's not going to be as boggy in second gear. So that's what worries me. And then what worries me is going down through the dog. I don't worry much about the repave. That's a good thing about iRacing, is that you can get on here and you can test without, worrying about having to pay to go somewhere and test a real race car. So, that's fun to me, to where I can go on here and test and work my butt off to be fast at Phoenix. Now I don't have to worry about Martinsville. So it's just like skip right to Phoenix and test. But no, the worrisome part to me is it isn't the racetrack in itself. It's the restart zone. Where are you going to restart? Everybody's going to be in the center of the corner or going down the back straightaway into turn 3 and 4. So it's going to be crazy. I think that's where you're going to find your wrecks and a lot of, miscalculations going through the dog leg.
We're looking forward to that one, but tonight, it doesn't matter. You've accomplished the mission. You will fight for the championship once again. Daniel, we'll let you get out of here. Congratulations on the win.
Yes, sir, and thank you guys for everything you do. And I just got to give a shout out to all of SK Sim Racing. I got to give a shout out to the team and my fiance who watches at home every night, my grandmother who watches in the next room, and just for all you guys for y'all's support through my COVID situation. It really means a lot, and the good Lord above. And man, I'm just glad to be here with you guys, and it was fun tonight. Thank y'all.
Glad you're feeling better. Glad to have you back, Daniel. That is your race winner tonight for the Kansas Speedway, and the second driver to lock into the championship for Daniel Eberhardt. Andrew Freenosh will once again go head-to-head for a championship on a Real Sim Racing Monday night. Flip side of this coin, Nolan, it's a great points night for Agnew Phillip. What a drive, and what a night it was for him. Top to bottom, somehow salvages it after the disconnect early. You're stood by with the drive of the 94.
Indeed I am, and Agnew, I just have to say this. What an absolute roller coaster of a ride for you tonight. You go from disconnecting before the race even starts, going a lap down, you fight back, and you manage to somehow take up a second place at the end of it all. I didn't think it would ever happen, but it did.
Yeah, you know, if there's an award for comeback performance of the year, that might be one of them. But yeah, that was... man, I am fried after all of that. I mean, my computer just froze when it was transitioning in between sessions, and was really scrambling to try and get the simulator restarted and join up again. Thankfully, I only lost one lap. If I lost more than one lap, I might have been game over at that point. But yeah, gosh, basically only really raced for half the race, but it was a good half. Missed all the other wrecks and came up with a good finish. And seems like we'll have a pretty decent gap, although, you know, if one of those bottom four guys wins next week, I'll be on the outside looking in, so we'll have to see how it goes.
So you take a look at how this comeback drive was for you. Were you kind of always thinking when you got back to the lead lap where you wanted to finish, or are you just kind of going to take it one position at a time? I
wanted to win. Like, even when I was riding around there, you know, a lap down, I was like, man, wouldn't it be cool if I came back and won? And, you know, I really, once, more realistically, I was kind of just trying to make sure I didn't get caught up in any of the wrecks. Because I know, you know, we had a couple, like, nice long green runs, but I'd done enough races this week to know that once the cautions started, you know, falling one after another, you could easily get caught up in other people's stuff. So it kind of worked out. I think I got track position a couple of times through just kind of the way the pit cycles worked out, and I was able to kind of make the moves at the right time. And yeah, I wanted to finish as well as possible. I knew Daniel winning one of these three races was possible, and you know, any of the guys can win the next race, so you gotta do as much as you can.
So you exit this race, and it looks like you're going to be, at the end of the day, P4 in the points, and it's going to be an interesting run for you. You have one more to go over at the Martinsville Speedway, and a P2 finish tonight will definitely put you up in a good position to be able to come away with a points victory to move on to that critical final round. Do you have a plan in mind for the world's fastest paperclip? I
mean, I think there's no choice other than to try and win. I mean, Martinsville rewards people who qualify up front and then stay up front, so... I'm going to do kind of the best I can to get a good starting spot and just hold position there. And if I find myself with the position to win, that's the easiest way to guarantee a spot. Because, you know, like I said, if any of those guys from 5th to 8th right now, you know, win, then, and I don't, you know, finish where I need to in front of Bowie, then I'm going to end up on the outside looking in. So there's nothing other than to just try to get the best result possible and try and win next week.
Get the best results possible. That's what's gotten you this far. It's what no doubt could carry you into that critical championship round. Before I let you go, though, Agnew, anybody you'd like to shout out for that number 94 Chevrolet?
I have to thank the team, A51 Pro. You know, we had a good road to pro season, and now we're just kind of taking a little bit of a break. But always great hanging with those guys. Have to thank Evan and for putting this whole thing on, and you, Nolan, for helping out with the broadcast and stuff, and just, you know, I really do enjoy running in this league. So just a thank you to all the the drivers and everything. And yeah, looking forward to hopefully finishing off the season strong.
Thank you, Agdell, for taking the time to come out here and join us tonight. Congrats on a remarkable second place finish, and I have to just wish you the best going into Martinsville.
Appreciate it, Nolan. Thank you.
That was Agdell Phillip bringing it home after a very roller coaster of a drive to finish up in the second position. And we are going to move on down to the third and final driver now on the podium. Brandon Bowie also joined us up in the broadcast booth. So, Brandon, you take home a third place finish at the end of the night and the highest up driver for the Keeping It Real crew.
Yeah, Nolan. Yeah, it's been a very long time since I've been up here with you guys, so it's great to hear your voice. But yeah, I mean, this race was kind of on one of my lists. Like I need to do good, and at the end of the day, I just need the points. Same thing I did for last week, and I committed to just running the bottom the majority of the beginning of the race. Of course, with cautions and strategies and tires and fuel and all that stuff, it kind of had me go to the front, to the back, to the front, to the back. And that last run, I was just hoping that it would stay green. Of course, it didn't. But you know, there at the last caution, I kind of didn't make the right call, and I didn't add enough fuel, and I think that's what made me a little too tight. I couldn't run the bottom like I was early in the race. I think if I could have actually had a good run, a better run, I should say, for Agnell and Daniel. But you know, it's one of those things where, I mean, like I said, I have to look at the big picture. I just need the points. You know, wins are great, but right now, if I don't have those points going into, next race at Martinsville, I'm going to be struggling just to try and do good, or that would probably put me in a situation where I feel like I have to win, and I don't want that situation. I just want a situation where, like, you know what, top 15 or top 10 or whatever the points shake out to be, and I know I can go ahead and do that. But the less pressure, the better. If I can just focus after that on Phoenix, if I can make the Final Four, I think that'll be a great opportunity.
And you talk about, of course, wanting as little pressure as possible. I have some good news for you on that front. It looks like you do have a bit of a sizable gap down to that playoff cutoff line, at least down to P5 in the points. It's 2 points over to yourself and Phillip, but it's quite a bit more all the way down to Nick Silver, who is currently 5th place, just outside of the points. So you are looking to be in a bit more of a secure position coming into Martinsville. Do you currently have a game plan for that track?
Not really. I mean, Martinsville, I will say, is one of my best tracks. I don't know what it is about that track, but I love it. Of course, with me accidentally running the Bubba Wallace car, maybe I should do the same thing for next week. Maybe I can win it. But anyway, I mean, no, not really any strategy. Just possibly, doing the same thing I've been doing for the last 2 weeks. Just keep it clean, stay out of trouble, try to stay up front, and just get some bonus points if I can, if I leave some laps. Try not to make any mistakes on pit road with speeding or anything like that. I've done that way too often this season. Ultimately, I just need a clean race, top 5, and I think I'm happy walking into Phoenix.
And of course, this was the final mile and a half on the season. It's the final time we're going to be seeing this high downforce, low horsepower package on these Gen 6 cars. Do you have any closing thoughts about what it's been like and potential plans for the next gen cars?
Well, over the years, I should say the package has changed several times. We ran the low downforce, ran the high downforce. Ran the high downforce the last couple of years, and it has its pros and cons. Passing is very difficult. That's, again, earlier where I said, I decided just to run the bottom because I knew the majority of people would run the high side. And then you get kind of bottled up, and you just continue to stay on the bottom and try to make moves and try to make passes, side drafting, everything like that. So that part is fun for the different options, but I would definitely prefer the low downforce, where it in my opinion, requires a little bit more skill as far as throttle control, throttle management, try not to spin the tires. And yes, you are doing that on the high downforce to a certain extent, but the low downforce kind of allows you to separate yourself from the people who can really, muscle these cars around, and maybe the guys who are still trying to learn, how to, do that. So I think there would have been a little bit of separation between the guys that can and the guys that cannot, and I think that would have gave us maybe a little bit better chance to actually win. With the high downforce, it just, everybody is such in a pack, and it kind of resembles a little bit of a super speedway race, which we all know gives everybody a chance to win. So, I mean, going into next year, I would hope that there is some separation, but that's really wishful thinking for what I'm hearing. I'm hearing it's kind of similar to what we have now, which I guess if there's a way so that way we could still suck up to the car and maybe make passes when we can, instead of, having to burn up our tires, then yeah, I mean, I'm down for the next gen car, but I haven't really tested it much, so we're just gonna have to wait and see how it shakes out.
And well, it's always been entertaining and obviously a pleasure to be able to get your insights on these sorts of things, Brandon. And unfortunately, that is all the time we're gonna have for one day. But before I let you go, who helps you to get it done in that keeping it real Toyota Camry? Yeah,
definitely gotta thank the team. We have not, overall as a team, we've kind of been struggling a little bit. Some of us have definitely shined, and some of us unfortunately have had just bad luck. But again, that's the playoffs. I mean, unfortunately that's how things go. I gotta thank Circle B Diecast, Majors Garage, Southern Creek, After the Turns, Elwood Designs, for always making our team continue to go around and help us make some amazing looking paint schemes on the track. I gotta thank you guys, RSR, RaceSpot, for always putting on a great broadcast for us to go back and watch. I'm pretty sure this is gonna be pretty entertaining to go back and watch, just to watch the different lanes and stuff that people were running. And I gotta thank the family, and gotta thank the man above.
And thank you, Brandon, for taking the time to join us here tonight. And congrats on a third place finish. Best of luck going into Martinsville.
All right, thanks, Nolan.
And well, Evan, that will wrap it up then for the podium drivers here tonight from the Kansas Speedway. And my goodness, what a race. That's all I have to say to kind of give my closing thoughts on this one.
It's a wild one, right? I mean, this is what we expect with this package at these tracks, but I mean, I think Kansas helps a lot, right? When you can work the wall, you can work the inside lane. I mean, really gives these drivers a lot of options and stock points, right? You mentioned it there with our guys. Top finishers tonight win out big. So obviously first, Daniel Eberhardt wins. He's advancing to the next round with Andrew Freenosh. But there's your intervals. As you can take a look, Brandon Bowie is going to be scored with 4,068 points. That is 2 points ahead of Agno Phillip with 466. He is the bubble driver. Below him, you got to look down to 4,055 points, so minus 11 to Silver. That's doable. Liam Sheed minus 13, doable. It gets a little bit more stretched out when you get to Dan Donola to minus 18, and certainly Adam de Blasio, who, by the way, recovered tonight after claiming that yellow to still get 13th. So he doesn't lose a ton. But of course, the big thing here is Eberhardt was 8th, right? So by Eberhardt winning, it knocked everybody down a peg. What we were talking about coming into this race was the fact that, Nick Silver was a bubble guy, but Liam Sheen was 4th in the points. And he's the one that drops 2 positions, and Liam Sheen goes from +5 to minus 13. Again, that's mostly in part of the win from Eberhardt.
And of course, you take a look then at, what it's going to be like in just 1 week's time. And you have so many gaps that are so easily able to be fluctuated all the way throughout the, I believe it's a 250 lap race you're going to be having in just 1 week's time at the world's fastest paperclip. And I can tell you right now, both Agno Phillip and Brandon Bowie, they were looking to not have so much stress coming onto their plates. But even though Bowie's got a little bit of a gap to work with, he's going to have to be looking over his shoulder every step of the way.
It is going to be an intense one, and we certainly hope you join us next Monday night. But until then, that is it for us here tonight from the virtual Kansas Speedway. So on behalf of our entire team at RaceSpot TV, at RealSimRacing, and for our team tonight, for our producer downstairs, Hugo Luis, for Nolan Rempel, and myself, Evan Pasoko, I want to thank all of you so much for tuning in and congratulate Daniel Epperhart. He has another chance to become an RSR Cup Series champion. So we return in 1 week's time, Monday, November the 1st, for a 250-lap showdown at the virtual Martinsville Speedway. That race and every race of the 2021 SimSeats RealSimRacing Cup Series can be found exclusively here on RaceSpot TV. Until next time, good night from Kansas. Daniel Epperhart is headed to the championship 4.